If health isn't the most important thing that you're focused on in your life, then what is the most important thing that you're focused on? I mean, without health, you're not able to build your business. Without health, you're not able to spend time effectively and presently with your family and the people who matter most to you. Without health, you have nothing. And whether you believe in an afterlife or a second life or whatever it is, let's assume that this is your only life. Then the question becomes, how can we optimize our health? How can we even live longer? And how can we look better naked? Because let's face it, we all want to look good too. We all want to look good for the people who are important to us, as well as look good to us when we look at ourselves in the mirror. And today we're going to be talking to an expert in this field. And we're not just going to be talking about fitness. We're not just going to be talking about nutrition. We're going to be talking about a lot of the important aspects of health that nobody's talking about. We're going to be talking about your skin. We're going to be talking about the stress that you might be experiencing in your job. We're going to be talking about a lot today with our expert and author of the book, Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100, Mr. Tom Broadwell. And for those who don't know Tom has been in the health and fitness industry for more than 20 years, working as a personal trainer and nutritionist. However, his real education started around 14 years ago when he developed such bad eczema, he would change his bed sheets every day because they were covered in blood and pus. When he discovered holistic health and natural healing, he managed to cure himself from the crippling pain of eczema. He then went to educate others in what health truly is. He's the author of Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100, the no bullshit guide to optimal health, living longer, and looking better naked, and has presented health seminars to thousands of people all around the world. He's traveled the world living in England, Australia, and now off the grid in the Philippines. Tom, it's a pleasure to have you here, brother. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. My first ever live interview, so thank you.
We'll make it a good one, brother. We'll make it a good one. We got to get you on more because people need this information, brother. I know we've known each other through Bogdan, who we've had on the show in the past. And for those who've seen his episode, it was about motivation. It was about living a better life. And the thing that's really important to talk about here, man, is you can't do any of that stuff without health. And you talk about a lot of incredible things when it comes to health, including doing what you love, because that will include less stress into your life. And I know you yourself went from being a personal trainer in Australia, always focusing on making more money so that you can pay the bills, doing the day-to-day life. And then you traveled the world and you found yourself on a beach, your beach in the Philippines. So you have a fascinating story, man. So can you give us like a background of what all of that looked like for you?
Yeah, sure. I've always been a little bit different in terms of the way I think. I had the grades, I guess, to go to university, but never went. I just figured, doing 4 or 5 years of more study and then getting a normal job, it just didn't resonate too well with my soul. So I went off traveling on cruise ships, doing a personal training job, wound up living in Australia, building a very successful personal training business. From there, left there, went back to the ships, and now I realized laying on a beach in Mexico one day, and the meal I just had it cost less than $2, and I just figured life wasn't about earning as much money as possible. It was about creating joy, I guess, in my life, and I realized joy for me is being in nature. I always wanted to live as close to the beach as possible in Sydney, Australia, but the closer I got, the more expensive the rent was. And then I realized that you can actually live in a country with an economy that maybe is not as strong as the dollar or the pound, English pound, and live like a king without needing millions of dollars. So that's what I currently do. I live on my own beach in the Philippines.
That's incredible. How long have you been there now?
Coming up to a year and a half. We've built a temporary house made of bamboo, which is really cool. It's just like a little beach shack. But our main focus at the minute is growing our own organic food, vegetables, raising some animals, generating enough power from solar, and creating our own drinking water and just trying to become self-sufficient. And then I've had a really cool idea for a design for a house, which is actually a dome. So it's more going to be more natural shapes, and just to fall in alignment with nature, basically.
Wow, that's so cool, man. I love that. I remember the first conversation we had to time it right, obviously, because the sun was going down, and you you had like the tin all around you, and you said when it rains, we're not going to be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it was cool because I obviously talked to a lot of people, but those were problems that you never thought would be problems until you talk to somebody where that actually is a problem. So
Yeah.
hey man, it's a cool problem to have, right? You've got your privacy, you're living off the land, you've got a lot of cool things going for you, brother. But I think it's cool how you took the leap from being a part of, Australian society, building your personal training business. And I'm sure there was a lot of fear associated to going off, doing your own thing, traveling across the world. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who moving somewhere else is very scary, especially if they have a family and they think of vacation and traveling as something that they do once a year, maybe once every couple years if they're able. And I think a lot more people are able than they realize. You just need to start asking yourself different questions. But a lot of people, like you've mentioned in your book, are experiencing very, very high levels of stress working in a job and an environment that they don't love, that they're just there to earn a paycheck and they just do the same things over and over. And I love how you start every chapter with like a story. And the story that really stuck out to me, and I won't spoil it because I want people to get your book, but the chapter on the person who just goes to work and puts their 40 hours in and they're unfulfilled, they're stressed out. I mean, I'm sure you experience this a lot with the people you've talked to. What are the experiences of stress on these individuals who might not even realize the levels of stress that they're experiencing in their life? And how is stress from a job that people don't even like affecting their overall health in ways they don't even understand?
To me, I believe stress is the biggest killer in the world. Day-to-day stress. So the way the human body is designed is for a little bit of stress, fight or flight, running after food, running away from danger. It can most certainly be a good thing. And we need a little bit of stress to get us motivated to do our work. But it's the day-to-day stress that's the real killer. So if you're constantly in fight or flight, you're producing cortisol, you're producing adrenaline in such huge amounts that starts to affect you on every single level. Obvious ones are like high blood pressure, heart disease, but cancer can take a hold. And it will affect you on all the different hormonal things. So thyroid problems, diabetes, it can affect you in many, many different ways. And it affects us all differently. So sometimes people gain weight, some people lose dramatic amounts of weight, people go through the aging process quicker, many different levels. And in terms of when you were talking about fear, I truly believe life is, we make these decisions where we want to be comfortable. But if you're having a job 40 hours a week and you get your paycheck at the end of every month, you feel comfortable, but are you really living life to what it should be, which is basically lessons? We should never really be comfortable. We should be learning lessons constantly, and that's going to make you evolve on a spiritual level as well. I think that's a big thing not a lot of people talk about, or you get looked at as crazy if you think there's any more than one life, or there is a creator, or what have you. So I think we're here to evolve spiritually as well. So facing the fear and doing it anyway is a big thing I've lived my life by.
I love how you literally you said that in the book, and you literally said afterwards, a lot of people don't do things because they're afraid of what other people think of them. And I don't normally swear on the broadcast, but it's not like we're monetizing the broadcast anyways. There's no ads, no sponsors. So you literally say, who gives a fuck what other people think about you? Right? You got to stop worrying about what other people think. That's, to some people, easier said than done. Right? And I guess I'm 27. when I was 21, when I was 22, when I was 23, I was a lot more sensitive to what people thought of me. I was an insane people pleaser, and I still am a people pleaser to an extent. I will admit that. Is this something that you acquired as you got older, or is this something that only took place once you started making these decisions and realizing that it didn't matter what other people thought of you?
Yeah, I guess it's a growing curve, if you like, that we all have to go through. Um, I mean, it's from the education system and the mainstream media. Um, it puts us into this prison cell of judgment and people judging you, and then you're judging others, and then you start judging yourself, and you end up in this prison cell of what other people think of you, or even what you think of yourself. And you got to break free of that. And it's almost like you've got to unlearn a lot of what we've learned through childhood. Teenage years especially is all about vanity. I mean, it's crazy today with the social media and people hoping for likes, and they're doing these 8-second TikTok video dances. And, society as a whole is trapped in this vanity and materialism mindset. And I mean, if you really think about where we are spiritually, and I don't, in my book, I talk a lot about the 5 senses and physical health, but in these last 2 years since I finished writing my book, I've learned much more about spirituality, our consciousness, and what all that has to do with health as well, and well-being, and your energy and everything like that. So I've unlearned a lot of things, and I look at it as when I was a young man, I wanted to buy a Lamborghini, and life is, you judge your success on how big's your house, what car you drive, how much money you have, what suit you wear. And if you look at it, that's absolutely insane. You're not judged on how many people you help and where you are in terms of self-growth, because the education system doesn't teach us anything like that. It teaches us a lot of useless information. You don't even leave school knowing how to meditate, how to invest money, how to make a healthy meal. So we have a lot of education to learn, and that's what you teach people. That's what I like to teach people about health, because we're not taught that at school. And then you look at the mainstream media, and I've done a lot of learning about the mainstream media and their business model and how it's based on fear and vanity again. And then everyone's judging each other on how they look, and it's a very toxic world that we're living in right now. So with all of that, with the judgment and the vanity and the materialism, that's where we sort of get into that prison cell of what other people think really matters to you, when really nobody really cares too much about anybody else but themselves. And the only reason that they're coming from a place of judgment is either love. They don't want to see you get hurt because they've maybe tried to be different in the past, and it hurt them some way, so they don't want you to get hurt, or they're jealous. And I love the line, people want to piss on your bonfire because they have no bonfire of their own. So it's one of the two reasons that people are judging you. So once you realize that that's all bullshit, then just go ahead and do what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone needs to rewind the last minute and a half and just re-listen to that, because I'll be honest with you, brother, I still don't even know how to cook like an awesome, wholesome, healthy meal. Like, I was never taught how to cook. I was never taught in school how to cook. Like, there wasn't a cooking class or a course, right? I could learn on my own, of course, but you start to surround yourself with other people who can do those things. But it's always nice to know. But like you said, we focus on all these external things like wearing the nice suits and all these things, and the suits at the same time are seeping these chemicals into our skin, right? And it turned us in that way, which I want to talk to you about, because when I read that chapter on conscious clothing, I was like, whoa, stop it. I mean, you've said several things, man, that have blown my mind. One of those things alone that really blew my mind and blew the mind of a friend I have with diabetes, we talked about this, is the fact that you can reverse diabetes. And you'll never see a commercial that says this is how you can reverse your diabetes, right? Like, it would be taken down, it would be flagged, the people who made it would be put out of business, because there's all these forces at play that want you to get the medications and be forever dependent. And we know this one way of thinking that has been shown to us by the media and by the corporations and by big pharma. And we're not taught how to heal the way that our ancestors would heal. Like, I'm constantly saying things to my wife, like, what would we have done hundreds of years ago? And it's like, obviously we did something, because we've evolved and we've gotten to this point. And obviously things are much more advanced nowadays, but just the lack of real information is a big problem. So guys, I'm going to say this many times during the broadcast, and I don't do this with every guest, but this book has literally been on my bookshelf for over like the last year. This is one of the first books that Bogdan sent me, I think before he even sent me his book. And it was just looking at me every day. And the cover art's incredible, by the way. It's this fat dude laying down, and there's an arrow that points to him that says, avoid this, right? And I say him, it could be a woman, I don't know. But just the teachings in this book, this is the only health book you ever need to read. And guys, we're giving an offer right now where you can literally get the digital copy of this book, Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100, along with tons of additional bonuses. Like, I mean, like a lot, by clicking the link in the description that I'll have, or if you're on LinkedIn, it'll be in the comments, wherever you're watching, it'll be there. So let's dive into a few of those things that you said, Tom, because I mean, we could go in many different directions, but you said that after you wrote the book, you had a lot of spiritual learnings that you've correlated to health and that you dove into. What would you say would be one of the top or few top learnings that you've taken away that have helped to change the way you think about health and you've implemented into your own routine or what you teach?
Well, one thing that happened on a physical level, and this I truly believe is the cure for everything. And best of all, it's free. And I mention it so briefly in my book as a way to maintain health, but I did not realize until what happened to me that this is the cure for everything. So basically what happened, I got bit by a mosquito out here. I cannot even pronounce the name, so I won't bother. And it basically paralyzed me for 3 days. Like, I had no connection to my legs. I could not stand up. I was in fever, absolutely like the worst flu ever, but paralyzed at the same time. And from there, it caused arthritis throughout my entire body. Like, I had no strength in my hands. I could not open a bottle. And my feet, when I woke up in the morning, felt like every bone was breaking every step. And it took like an hour to warm up. Squatting, bear in mind, I've got to feed animals here. I've got to do planting, etc. I could not bend my knees past about 10 degrees. Like, everything was coming from my lower back. And I'm this fitness guy who's supposed to do fitness videos, and I cannot squat. It was awful. And I looked into what it could be, and it ended up being this mosquito. And it said sometimes the arthritis will last for days, sometimes a few weeks, but sometimes it can last for years. I was about 2 months in at this point. I was like, oh my, I cannot live with this. So I'd been through the crippling pain of eczema, and that affected me on every level, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I felt ugly. Sometimes it was so painful taking a shower. I was like, I'd rather be dead than alive. Like, it was serious. And then cured all that, everything's great, write the book, and now I've got this arthritis and I cannot move. I'm like, why does this keep happening to me? But it obviously is a lesson. So I look into this, and then I don't discover fasting. I've done fasting. I've done 24-hour fasts. I've done juice cleanses, which is similar, but you're drinking vegetable juice. But fasting with basically Himalayan pink salt has 82 minerals in it. So teaspoon of that, drink that in the morning, drink it another teaspoon after lunch, drink that, and then just drink loads and loads of water. So I've been in this crippling pain for like 2 months. And I was like, right, I'm going to have to fast. And I committed to 7 days, just water and just water with Himalayan pink salt. Within 3 days, I could do what I call ass to ankle squatting. Absolutely fine. My hands completely returned to normal, 100%. Absolutely gone after 3 days. No problems whatsoever. Completed the 7 days. Just if anyone's watching this and they want to heal, basically I've done a lot of reading of old books. So that where I learned all about the power of fasting was a book that was written over 80 years ago. And in that book, fasting's free. So the author was it was a retired doctor, and basically had no financial interest in this. It's completely free. It tore apart the pharmaceutical industry in the book as well. This was like over 80 years ago, I should say. And he talks about so many different cases, curing cancer, curing diabetes, curing heart disease. There's a guy who had 45 heart attacks, was somehow still alive, went to see this doctor, put him on a fast. Within 30 days, full recovery. Like insane. But it's free. So nobody tells you about it. And then just to really put a stamp on how powerful this is, last week, and I know off air we were discussing that you'd had a bit of a weird illness. On Tuesday last week, me and my wife both about 10 a.m. suddenly felt absolutely dreadful, fever, basically flu-like symptoms. I do intermittent fasting anyway, so I always skip breakfast and get to lunch, and it's a really good thing because as soon as I felt this illness coming in, I was like, right, I'm going to do a fast, and I committed to at least 24 hours, see what happened. Long story short, by Wednesday, I was 95% well. I just wanted to get to 100%, so I fasted till dinner, broke my fast with like a light salad, some steamed fish, and then by Thursday, I was working out absolutely fine. My wife didn't fast. Sometimes the people closest to you are the hardest ones to teach. Continued eating. Her mother came. So, of course, the whole concept of you got to eat to keep your strength up, which is absolutely reversed. As soon as you start eating, all that energy that could be healing your body is now digesting food. And today, over what day are we on? Over a week at least, still ill.
Whoa.
So I'm talking 24-hour fast, done. And it was exactly the same illness.
And when you fasted for 24 hours, you weren't eating, obviously, and you broke the fast with the light salad and the fish, but you were drinking, obviously. Like, was it just a water fast?
Yeah. So basically, I'll have a constant supply of warm water with Himalayan pink salt mixed in really good, sipping on that throughout the day. That's got your minerals. We could talk, I've learned a lot about nutritional deficiencies as well and how they relate to specific diseases. As mentioned, I sent you the diabetes presentation I've done. So beyond my book now, I run a website and I do a lot of presentations. So I've learned a lot about individual diseases and what it takes to fix those. And nutritional deficiencies are massive, magnesium especially. Magnesium's absolutely amazing, but that's within your Himalayan pink salt. And then just drink loads of water that's bottled at the source, as I mentioned in my book. If you're buying most popular brands, it's basically filtered tap water, which you can do for free at home. There's a big difference between that and water that's bottled at the source, so it's from nature itself. That's a much better way to go.
Do you mix in this Himalayan pink salt with every glass of water that you're drinking, or will you
No,
just
no.
drink it every now and then?
So I'll just have a mug with that mixed in, and I'll be sipping on that, and it tastes not nice. So
Do you
I
heat it
wash
up
that
or you just
down.
drink it cold?
It's warm water, boiled water, and then let it cool down a bit, and then you mix your Himalayan pink salt in with that, and then on the side just have a bottle of just normal water, bottled water.
Will you do that, the salt drink every day, even when you're not doing a 24-hour fast?
I always start my day with a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt and like half an organic lemon squeezed into hot water.
Hmm.
That's a really good start to your day. It's alkaline. I talk a lot about the alkaline lifestyle in my book, and then it's got loads of minerals in that, but most people are deficient in. In magnesium, I've linked that to high blood pressure because it relaxes muscle. So your heart's a muscle. So lacking in magnesium can cause high blood pressure. It can cause migraines because you've got obviously the muscles in your head. Magnesium melts calcium. So arthritis is calcium deposits in the joints. If you take a really high dose, talking about like 12 because some people say, oh, I take magnesium, it does nothing. It's because they're not taking enough. You need to really high dose, like 12 capsules for 3 days, and then you go down to 4, and that will melt the calcium in most people's arthritic joints.
Wow.
And from a spirituality point of view, calcified pineal gland, which is our third eye in the connection to our higher self, that gets calcified through fluoridated water. That will melt the calcium that's blocking your ability to meditate. People struggle with that or connect to your higher self.
Whoa. Come on, man. Let me ask you this. And then I want to ask you so many things, but we still have some time, which is cool. Why don't you think we learn these things in school? Like after all this time, all this information and knowledge, and a lot of these concepts even were spoken about, like what you mentioned with fasting. It was spoken about 80 years ago. It disrupted like the entire industry, right? And I'm sure they didn't like that, right?
Yeah.
Why are we still not learning about this in the education system in school today, in your
Well, it's
opinion?
well, if you look at who created the education system and who created the pharmaceutical industry, it's the same person, John D. Rockefeller. So John D. Rockefeller basically, the oil baron that we all know, controlled petroleum and gasoline and oil. And then basically around 1900, half of people were going to see medical doctors, and half of the people were more into herbalists, acupuncture, chiropractics, and more natural healing remedies, Eastern medicine, things like that. Now, when he saw the opportunity to get into medicine, he famously said, I don't like competition. So he got in contact basically with a gentleman called Flexner, who did the Flexner report in 1910. Basically, he went around all the medical schools and then reported to the American Medical Association and said, look, there's far too many branches of medicine. We need it centralized. We need to control this because chiropractics is dangerous. Acupuncture has no science behind it. And basically, he was paid by John D. Rockefeller to do this report. So what happened was the American Medical Association standardized all medical schools. So now you had nobody teaching anything to do with herbs, food, or any natural healing alternative medicine, if you like. From there, John D. Rockefeller funded every bit of medical research. So he did this through the guise of philanthropy and the Rockefeller Foundation. And he actually did this with the Andrew Carnegie, who was the owner of US Steel, who at the time was the richest man in the world. So these two set up foundations, which basically means tax-free haven, and funded every bit of medical research But the problem was, if you were studying anything other than Western medicine, you didn't get any funding. So there's nobody now researching. So any research that comes through about herbs and the power of natural healing all comes from the East, but it's basically shut down in America. People don't study it.
It's looked at as crazy.
Yeah. I mean, think about how insane that is. Using food as thy medicine is seen as alternative, but using very powerful drugs, heavy metals, and 90% of medication today is based on petroleum. That's where he got the double whammy. He owned the oil business already. So now all of that medication is based on his original product, which is petroleum. So from there, the Flexner report came out. Basically, empiric healing, as it's known, or natural healing, was completely crushed. No one was getting any money for medical research. All the schools now only teach Western medicine. And from there, he was clever enough to fund the media. So the media, since 1910, has been bought and paid for. And today, 95% of the funding for all the media that you see, whether it's on TV or newspapers, comes from the pharmaceutical industry. So whenever I do presentations, I always say, you will not have heard this on your TV. You'll probably think I'm a little bit crazy, because if I'd never get on TV. Can you imagine me going on Fox News or CNN and saying, oh, guys, just fast and you'll get rid of your health problems?
Oh my God.
No, because you're affecting the bottom line of their main sponsors. So they never report anything to do with health in mainstream media. And if it is, it's just a little trickle. And then it's back to commercials all about your drugs that you're having, which are quite funny commercials, because you get about 15 seconds of benefits and then a minute and a half of side effects.
In this creepy, deep voice.
Who even buys this stuff? It's insane. But yeah, that's how it happened. Oh, sorry. Then John D. Rockefeller and Carnegie wrote the education system. And their mission statement is in my book. And it says they do not want to create a nation of thinkers. They want a nation of people who are just clever enough at the time to push the buttons in the factories, or now it's to do the paperwork in little isolated places of work that escapes me now, but on the computer, do the paperwork, don't ask any questions. And think about the school, and everyone wears a uniform, everyone has to look the same, nobody's individual. You get no lessons in creativity, you get no lessons in meditation, inner work, healthy cooking, as we've said. And if you do not conform to their answers in their memory test, because an exam is a memory test, how much do you remember of what we've told you? However, what they're teaching, they don't teach you the history of the pharmaceutical industry. They don't teach you any real good information. They just teach you what they, basic math and English is what we all really take away from it. And everything else, you don't really use that much. And there's never an exam saying, okay, give us your opinion on this subject matter. It's tick the box of what we told you to tick. And that's it.
Yeah.
So he wrote the education system. He owns, and now today, the top 18 pharmaceutical companies in the world, every single one has a Rockefeller Foundation board member on their board members.
Wow.
If you look at the revolving door at the FDA and the CDC, every single head of CDCs, FDAs, have also been CEOs of pharmaceutical companies. So, corruption is running absolutely rife. It's insane. And nobody questions it because, of course, you don't hear about it in your mainstream media. Most people's only information they get is from the TV, and they're not going to tell you the truth because it will affect the income of their main sponsor.
I think more people are questioning it though, especially now. I mean, you
Oh,
see.
you have to, yeah. After the last 2 years, I mean, my word, this is where I've done a lot of learning about uh, the spiritual world, because I think we're in a spiritual war right now. It's absolutely insane what is going on. And a lot of people are in a state of hypnosis.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of looking into words, for example. If you look at entertainment, anything to do, any word that ends with the word ment is mind from Latin. So entertainment is literally entering your subconscious mind with thoughts. Um, Now, I always say this, like when you're watching television, you are actually in a state of hypnosis. That's why you'll see people, a family, for example, are watching TV, looking really, really, just staring at the TV, and
Mhm.
you try and have a conversation and they can't hear you because the frequencies emitted from the TV actually bypass the frontal lobe of your brain. The frontal lobe is where we have our critical thoughts. That's where we form our own ideas. So they bypass that and they literally plant whatever they want to tell you into your subconscious mind. It's insane technology, and it's basically used as a propaganda tool. That's why it was created, but it's still used to that today. I know they'll say to you, oh no, we can't do subliminal messaging, we can't do that, that's illegal. Nobody would pay for advertising on TV unless it actually worked, which
Mhm.
is go and buy our product, go and feel good about yourself, go and look good in this, our toxic clothing here, and everyone will like you, your life will get better. That's what entertainment means, entering the mind. And then if you see, I mean, I'm in a country where the news channels are owned by the state,
Mm.
so it's very, very obvious here. It's insanely obvious, but all over the world, same thing. If you look at entertainment means entering the mind, what does government mean? To govern the mind.
Wow.
And govern is taken from the Latin word guber, which means control.
Oh my God.
Control the mind, mind control. I've looked a lot into words, and the reason is you do a spelling test because every word is a magic spell. They use it against us. It's incredible. And over the last 2 years, it's become so obvious to me. It's hilarious.
Wow.
Uh, how they use the TV. I've done a lot of work into the business model of mainstream media, which is based on fear. Because if they were teaching you how to become healthier, how to become more successful, how to become happier, that might not be a pressing issue in your life right now. So you might come back tomorrow, or you might not. You might buy the newspaper, you might watch the news, or you might not, because it's not a real pressing matter right now. However, if they can tickle your primal instinct of fear, and you start fearing for your life, then you feel the need, you have to come back and watch the news. And I've not watched TV for 15 years, but at the
Not at all.
beginning,
No shows, anything like that.
no, I've watched the odd movie. I don't mind movies, but then
Okay.
I'm not committed to, okay, every single Wednesday night, I'm here, I've got to sit down, I've got to do this, got to put my life on hold, or binge watching. When Netflix first came out, I ordered Netflix. It was the done thing, and then binge watched a couple of shows, and then I just realized I feel like I'm sort of wasting time and wasting my life here, and there's so much more to learn. And at the time, I was suffering with eczema, so
Mhm.
that was my passion. I wanted to learn about the body, health, and how to heal myself from the pain. So I had a big motivation, but yeah, I live in a bamboo house. I have no no TV here. I've not seen a TV for over a year. But on the cruise ship, so when all this started kicking off, I was actually working on a cruise ship, and then we were not allowed to dock I did not get off a cruise ship for 77 days. It
Mm.
was an insane life changing moment for me, because it actually gave me the time to finish my book
Hmm.
and record the audio book. It was quite an awesome opportunity for me. But basically, every morning I go into the cafe, the crew cafe, to get vegetable juice. And of course, they had a huge TV on, and it was, the news on constantly, because all these people are living in fear of this virus. And I was looking at it, and it humored me. I'm like, why is there a death count at the side of that?
It still is.
Right. Well, they've figured that no one's really dying from this thing, right? It had a survival rate of 99.98%. So they changed it to a cases count. Anything to keep the viewership high, the fear high. So they went from death count. It wasn't going up quick enough. And actually, there was a top producer at CNN. He got filmed secretly on a Tinder date or something. And he openly admitted it. So I was correcting my thinking, because I answered my own question to the guy who was serving me. Said it's for fear. If you see that death count, that is going to create fear in your mind, and you want to keep watching.
Hmm.
And he's on this date. He's getting secretly filmed. And he said, yeah, we took down the death count for a day. And the higher ups told us immediately put it back up, because viewership dropped dramatically.
Whoa.
Right? So they put the death count up. It's not ticking up quick enough. They change it to a cases count. Anything to keep it, the viewership high, because the higher the viewers, the more they can charge for advertising. So they don't teach you positive things. They teach you, they tickle your sense of the biggest motivator in the world is basically fear. And that's how the mainstream media runs. That's its business. And fear is that currency. So, you know, I say to people, in terms of stress, reducing stress and being more free as a human, turn off the TV. And even if you do it for a week, see how much you've missed out on, because I guarantee you, if anything's important, someone tells you about it. You don't need the television programming your mind with fear. That's such a low vibration. And that low vibration is going to bring sickness into your life.
And
You
what
know,
would you suggest that people fill that extra time with? Because a lot of people will do that, but they've spent so much time in filling that extra time with things like television, and they'll be on TikTok for the last hour of the night. Like, people will say to you, okay, well, what do I do with all this extra time where I'm bored? And it sounds like an obvious thing, but for a lot of people who've been programmed for so many years, most people, what would you suggest they do to fill that time in a constructive way?
well, I think the lowest vibration that we can feel on a spiritual level is fear. So turning that off. And one of the highest is nature. Spend time in nature. Go for a walk every evening for an hour. And that is going to make a huge difference to your health. Number one, you're going to forget about the problems in the world. And then do it at a time. So if it's early evening sun, one of the most underrated vitamins is vitamin D, but also a full spectrum of light coming into your eyes positively affects every hormonal process in your body. So it will boost testosterone. A lot of people suffer with low testosterone. It'll sort out your estrogen. It'll help with thyroid problems, helps with diabetes. Sunlight is incredible for us. But what we do is we block it. We wear sunblock, we wear sunscreen, and we wear sunglasses. And I keep saying this, and I get the odd email from doctors giving me a bit of abuse for this, but go look at the research. I never ask anyone, don't trust me, go and look at the research for yourself. There's never been a scientific research study done showing UV rays are bad for our eyes. You
Mm.
cannot find a pair of sunglasses that don't block them. And then when you're blocking them, you're affecting your hormones in a negative way. So every single night, go for a walk for an hour. Go on your own, take the dog, go with your partner, go with the family. Get into that. Don't wear sun cream, don't wear sunblock, don't wear sunglasses. That would make an incredible difference. And once again, it's free. From there, I've just done a 3-hour course on sleep. I mean, I didn't know there was 3 hours of talk to do, but basically, the stuff that Bogdan makes me do. But so with sleep, basically put the retina of your eye is connected to the master clock in your brain in the hippocampus by 20,000 nerves. So if you're struggling to fall asleep or stay asleep and you're staring at a screen, that is telling your brain to wake up. So you don't produce melatonin, you don't fall asleep easily. And actually, if you are reading news or watching these 8-second videos, man, like they are fragmenting our mind, our focus. People have the inability to focus now on what they need to do because this dopamine hit, boom, 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 from all these stories on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and it's just entertainment, 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 and we're literally destroying our brains. So I actually talk about not having a screen, no TV in your room. Television is proven to be a huge romance killer. You know, sitting there binge watching Netflix instead of making love to your partner, not good. Or reading the news about huge, muscular, sweaty men and playing your favorite sports instead of making love to your partner. It makes no sense. So
Yeah.
get rid of all electronic devices out of your bedroom. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for two things: sleep and sex. So get rid of the screens. So what else can you do? Meditation's fantastic, a bit of restorative yoga. In my book, one of my favorite poses is legs up the wall pose. Just lay on the floor, put your feet up against the wall. That resets your adrenal glands. Really healthy.
Like your
Reverses
feet
the
up
blood flow.
parallel to the wall with your butt against the wall, or
Yeah, if you can get your butt there, if you got the flexibility. But yeah, just get your feet up above your head. It's inversion. It's feeding your brain with oxygen. Really relaxing.
how long will you stay like that?
Start with 3 minutes and then build up to 15 minutes. That's a
Wow.
key thing to do at the end of every workday as well. It just resets the body and the mind. It's an awesome thing. You could do breath work, socialize with your family, talk about your days. You know, how are you getting on? How was school today? How was work today? You could play. You don't want too much excitement into the evening, but I do love a board game. One that we're playing a lot, me and my wife right now, is Scrabble. So that's barely an exciting game, but that means you got an hour there. There's no screens, and you're interacting with your family and your partner. It's a lovely thing to do. There's a lot of things you can do without a screen. You just got to get creative. I love coloring in mandalas. If you get an adult coloring book with mandalas, that's geometric shapes in circles. Again, meditation is about centering the mind. That's a form of meditation. And that's a wonderful thing to do before bed as well. Relaxes the mind. You're going to sleep like a baby. If you go for a walk in the sunshine and then you do some form of relaxation or social interaction, take a warm Epsom bath. Again, magnesium. People think that your skin is a one-way system. It's absolutely not. Whatever you put onto your skin is going into your bloodstream. Epsom salts are full of magnesium. Most people are deficient in magnesium. It's involved in a lot of different things. Digestion as well. Your intestines are a muscle. So soak your body in a warm Epsom salt bath. Fantastic for detoxing the system and introducing minerals that we're deficient in.
And
Lots of
don't bring
things.
your phone into the bath with you.
Exactly. Candlelight, relaxation, not the electronic. You are, by the way, spoiling my my no screens and no electric lights before bed
Mhm.
sort of routine here, but we live on
This is
opposite
for
ends
good,
of the
though.
world.
This is for the good of the people.
Absolutely, I will take a hit for the team. Absolutely,
You're sacrificing over in the Philippines.
yeah.
I love the creativity and the ideas, and I'm gonna do the legs on the walls because I've never heard of someone say that before. I'm gonna do that tonight, and I'm just gonna see how I feel. I'll start with 3 minutes, and I'll start that. But
Yeah, just
the,
close your eyes and just focus on your breath. 4 seconds in and then 7 seconds out is generally a good breathing pattern to completely relax the mind. Close the eyes. And once again, it's something me and my wife will do together. But then we don't have that codependency. You know, as I said, you know, people who's closest to you, they're the ones that are, you know, most resistance to change. So what I do is I start doing something like that, and eventually she's like, "What are you doing? Oh, you seem much calmer. Oh, you're sleeping better. Well, maybe you should do it too." You know,
Yeah.
and that's what I've learned a lot over the years. Is I used to, you know, I'm sure when you're a young man and you're learning all this new stuff about self-development, and you just want to push it on everyone, and you're telling everyone, and they repel that. I don't want to know about that right now.
Yep.
So now I just set examples, and I'll just do things. Intermittent fasting, for example, we both never eat breakfast now, but it took me doing it for a month or so, and she then, okay, well, if you're not eating, I won't eat. And then, you know, just lead by example.
Do you break your fast with anything, even like fruits or anything?
No, intermittent fasting, basically, the rule is you're allowed black coffee. So I've just done one of Bogdan's laser light focus courses. He was kind enough to give me access to. And basically, you've got all your creative mental clarity and focus and all that energy in the morning. And what I learned during my research for sleep was it's okay to have some black coffee, and that kicks in that mental power and energy. And then you can do all your creative work, and then no more caffeine after that one cup. Like, that's me done for the day. So black coffee, if you add any milk or any sugar, then your fast is broken.
Mm-hmm.
Hot water with lemon and Himalayan pink salt, as I said, that's my first protocol. Cold shower, bit of meditation, bit of movement, yoga or qigong or something like that. The first hour of my day is about energizing my body and feeling good.
Mm.
Because my bathroom's about 50 meters away near the beach, I love walking in the sunshine on a morning. I might do one of them power poses from that TED talk, just to get my confidence and steam going for the day. And then I'll have a black coffee, and then just drink water basically until it's lunchtime, and then I eat between 12 and 1. Usually have mid-afternoon snack. Again, magnesium is important, zinc, potassium, so pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, almonds, maybe a bit of fruit. I always say, like, just be careful on the amount of fruit that you're having because of the high fructose levels. But here on my land, we've planted around about 50 different trees, and some of them are mango trees. So I'm going to have to eat a little bit more fruit than I'm used to. And then have a dinner. And then again, last thing I'll consume now between 7 and 8 p.m. and then eat again the next day, 12, 1 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been intermittent fasting now since I was 21, like midway
Wow,
through 21. So I
you're
won't
ahead of the
eat.
times.
Yeah, no, I heard about it before intermittent fasting became like the fad that it is, because now it really is talked about a lot, which is incredible. And again, obviously people listening, like, test what feels good for you. But
Mhm.
those times before noon, I have so much energy, man. And
Yeah,
depending on what I eat at noon, the energy will continue. But like you mentioned before, your body, when it's digesting food, like, all of that energy is now digesting food and rushing the blood to the stomach. And it's leaving you feeling tired and
mhm.
lethargic and like feeling like you do after that Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah,
Right. So it's so valuable, and it helped me to lose a lot of weight too, because then I wasn't eating that breakfast, and breakfast was never generally a healthy meal for me. Breakfast was
that's
like
true.
toaster strudels or cereal or something that wasn't good, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many myths out there even now where it's like you need to eat a healthy breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. And
Do you
it's
know
like
who started that? Mr. Kellogg, who owns Kellogg's. He wrote an article for some nutrition magazine stating breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but he was just doing it to sell more Kellogg cereals.
it's not
He was the one
surprising.
who started.
It's not surprising at all, man. It's not
No,
surprising. I hope one of the biggest things that people take from this conversation, and I wanted to go back real quick and just that illness that you were experiencing for months that you were able to kick in 3 days. I have a question on that because
yeah,
we talked quickly through that, but I'm just curiosity is wanting me to ask something else. But I hope this conversation, because we really didn't talk about what's the best exercise routine, what is the best form of nutrition. Like we've just talked for an hour about these this hypnosis and programming that
mm,
we're all experiencing on a daily basis. And if anything, ask yourself, listening right now, ask yourself, how much of this programming am I bombarding myself with on a daily basis? Like even if you're not watching TV and off your phone and you're on the electronic fast for 7 days, when you're driving around, you're still being bombarded with
right,
thousands of pieces of programming and information and billboards and other people's things and TVs in the offices you're waiting in and the computer screens that you're working on. And just be aware of what you're seeing because you're being shown what you're being shown for a reason. And most of it has to do with capitalism, money,
mm,
and control. And your ability to realize that and not to like, fight it and go against it, but just to be awakened to the understanding that we're being shown these things for those purposes is going to empower you to make these positive changes like playing the board game and moving your body and getting outside and walking. Let me tell you, man, I very seldom ever get very sad or depressed. Very, very seldom, to the point where I don't even recognize the feeling when it happens. But this past week when I've been sick, I wish I talked to you beforehand because I would have done a 24-hour fast. It would have been the first thing I did. But when I got sick, I was starting to feel so sad after 3 to 4 days because one, I wasn't talking to people, and two, I was just inside, just laying down and just watching movies and things that I never usually do. Very rarely will I watch movies even now, and very rarely will I watch TV. But once I got outside and I took a walk
mm,
and I was still feeling kind of sick, and don't worry, I was away from other people, like it changed everything in the course of 45 minutes of me going outside for a walk. It was absolutely incredible to get the sunlight, to move my body, to breathe again, to breathe
mm,
in the fresh air. Just move your body, get outside, get around these natural sources that we're so disconnected from, and just notice how it makes you feel and how much less stress you'll experience in your life. I mean,
yeah.
man, we talked about a lot of cool things here. When you were able to reverse how you felt with this, what did you call it? You called it arthritis. When you were able to reverse
Oh,
these arthritic effects, what exactly did you do again? So you had the Himalayan salt, you drank the water. You do a 24-hour fast? Like what did you do in order to kick this in 3 days? I'm just curious.
no, it was 7 days.
Seven
So
days.
yeah, I did a 7 day fast.
Oh,
I
a
was
7-day fast.
Yeah, it was hardcore, man. But I committed to it. That's one thing I've got is if I'm doing a detox or I'm doing a juice cleanse or I'm doing a fast, and I'm telling you, oh, I'm going to do 7 days, I'm doing it.
Mm.
And for some reason, my wife had family members around the first day. They were all eating my favorite meal. Second day, she had other set of family members. They were all drinking beer and having a good time. And I'm like, are you trying to literally kill my motivation? But I managed to get through. It was just that I noted that the arthritis completely gone in 3 days. But I wanted to make sure. So if you're doing something like this for something that's been long term, for example, so if I was doing it for my eczema, it might have taken a longer fast to get there. And depending on where you are with your health right now and what disease you've got, and it might take longer than 7 days. For me, I just noticed that I was completely pain free in 3 days. I still did the 7 days just to make sure it was a permanent change. Anything like a cold or a flu can be done in 24 hours. I basically still did intermittent fasting the next day, still skipped lunch and just sort of got to dinner. Break your fast with like a piece of fruit. Then 2 hours later, have something light like a salad or I love over here, it's called sinigang. It's like a fish soup. So you've got a base like tamarind or unripe mango, something sour. Lime's good. And then tons of vegetables, and then some salmon. So delicious, so refreshing, so healthy. Drink down all them vitamins, and you'll be good to go. Any flu-like symptoms done in about 24 hours.
Oh my God. How often will you do a 24-hour fast now, even like while you're feeling healthy? Like how often will you do that?
I always do some form of detox in alignment with the seasons. So the beginning of spring, so around March, I'll always do some form of detox, and then the beginning of autumn, it just falls into alignment with the seasons and nature. So I do 2 detoxes per year for definite. But now that I've discovered this, like if I feel bad on a morning, terrible or sniffly, I'm just going to hit it on the head with a fast. No problem.
And you won't eat until the next day.
No.
Wow.
When you're doing a 7-day fast, know that the first 2 days are so difficult. And then after that, it's actually easy. Someone who's morbidly obese, they could fast for 60 days and they'll be fine.
Just with water and some Himalayan salt here and there.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so powerful. I've
You
never
could
done a
reset
full
your
24-hour
entire
fast.
metabolism in 30 days usually.
Unbelievable. Man, just so many awesome things we talked about. My last question before, I tell everyone again, I'll say it now and I'll say it again. Guys, link is in the description to Tom's book, Lazy Fucks Don't Live to 100, the no bullshit guide to optimal health, living longer and looking better naked. He goes deep into what we talked about here, but like 90% of what this book isn't even what we talked about here. So if you found any form of value where you're like, that's a really cool thing to know, I'm going to start trying that. If you had that realization at all during this conversation, you need to go to the link in the description or the comments and literally go get your digital copy of this book, because number one, you're going to get the book, you're going to get the audiobook, you're going to get a bunch of additional bonuses as well. But even more importantly, you're going to be in Tom's ecosystem where he'll reach out to you and you'll get messages and newsletters and frequent things here and there. Like, you are the people you surround yourself with. So go in the description, grab your copy of that. Tom, what would you say is your mission at this stage in your life? What are you looking to accomplish now as you head forward into this year and beyond?
One thing I will say about the book, because I finished writing 2 years ago when all of this started kicking off, I've learned so much more. And actually, one of the bonuses is a masterclass. It took me like 3 months of videos, works, and every one of the 21 chapters I take a much deeper dive into. And it's all about, quite controversial, but about current events as well. So if that's piqued your interest, and that's all part of the $5. So
it'll be the best $5 you spend, guys. Ditch the Starbucks today or get the Starbucks and get this, because this $5 can quite literally change the trajectory of your life and maybe even extend it once you follow what's in there.
Potentially. And then for me, it's more about, I'm learning so much about my inner self. And as I said, all on a more of a, not the 5 senses that we see and hear and taste and smell things with, more of the consciousness and just spirituality, basically. So I'm doing a lot of inner work right now. I'm really enjoying that. And I've learned so much for the last 2 years about how to grow vegetables, how to take care of animals, how to go fishing. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking self-sufficiency and life skills. That's sort of, I see it as the biggest form of self-respect, knowing that I do not need a government or a corporation or a supermarket to live. And right now, with what's going on around the world with supply chains and stuff, I urge everyone to grow some vegetables. I lived in a little apartment in Sydney and I still had a herb garden on the apartment. Herbs are full of vitamins, minerals. Make sure you've got access to clean water, food, some energy, maybe a solar panel here, there, or two. That's what I'm focusing on right now. I've completely let go of materialism, nice cars and all of that. I've grown a lot as a person, and I realized that that's all a distraction, and we've got to start asking bigger questions right now. Why are we here? Who are we? You know, when we ask them big questions, we start to break free of a lot of stuff that really doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Those are powerful questions, and we could have a whole conversation around those alone. Maybe we will in the future.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you.
Yeah, same here, Tom. Thank you for your time, brother. Go get yourself some sleep now that you can put your screen away. And it's an honor to have you on the show, so I'm glad we can make this happen.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. Thank you.
This could quite possibly be one of the most impactful, value-packed, practical conversations that we've ever had on this show. And some would call it controversial, right? And depending on the platform it gets put on, hopefully it stays up. I don't think we're big enough for something like this to get flagged. But nowadays you say a few words and the whole thing comes down, right? Which goes back to the whole programming and what they want us to see and all that fun stuff. So again, if you take anything out of this conversation, I'll tell you what I took away. The biggest things I took away is the awareness of how much we are bombarded with the information that they want us to see, that's convenient for them, that earns them money. And understand that your well-being and your effectiveness and your overall fulfillment and happiness in life doesn't have to be commoditized. You can do many things starting today, starting now that you've listened to this, that you've watched this, that can dramatically change the trajectory of your life, your health, your overall satisfaction with yourself, with other people, just by turning off your screen for 7 days, turning off your TV for 7 days, going outside and taking an evening walk, doing the intermittent fasting, trying the 24-hour fast, or if you want to get crazy, the 7-day fast. Notice how you feel after that. Notice the difference in your body. Notice the difference in your mental state. In this 1 hour, we've covered so many different topics that can change your life for the better. And if you found any value whatsoever, be sure to share this show with one person, because you're the reason that this show has been able to grow the way it has since March of last year. And again, in the description, I said it more this episode than ever because you need to get the book. How often do I actually hold the book for you and show you that I actually own the book? I own it. I've gone through it. I've enjoyed it greatly. It's written in a really great way. It looks big, but the font is big. So for those scared by the look of this book, believe me, it's an easy read. You can go to the parts that you need the most. You need to go to the link in the description, pay the $5, get the book, the audiobook, all the additional bonuses, including the masterclass that Tom mentioned. You need to go grab it now. And I thank you for watching and listening. And until you and I talk next time, continue to be better.